Alright dudes, today we're going to be doing some random grabs once again. Let's see what happens. Alright, so yeah, it's January 2nd. I'm shooting a couple of videos to have in my pocket to fire off once we get moving into the new house. If I wind up being too busy to shoot some new material, I filmed this back in January to have something to keep you guys entertained because I appreciate your support for the channel. So, this is going to be something I might keep on doing forever and ever. We'll see. It's super easy to set up a video and just kind of rip these off as I go. So we're just gonna be doing random grabs from Discogs in my collection. Could be LP, could be CD, could be a 7-inch or a cassette. You never know what it's gonna get. And I'm gonna tell you what I think about that album, a little story behind it or whatnot. So as we talk about whatever Discogs tells me to talk about, we're gonna be listening to Triarchy of Lost Lovers, not Luggage, hit that, from Rotting Christ. And I was reminded of how good this album is thanks to Ken from Ken's Death Metal Crypt today. Yeah, when I think Rotting Christ, I don't usually think about this album, so we're putting it on. We're gonna revisit Triarchy of Lost Luggage. That's so good. As we delve into some random grabs, let's see. First one. All right, you all know this one. All right, I had this on CD, LP, and the shirt of Summonings minus Morga. I think the first time I got into strictly limited edition. I'm so strict about it. What's the big deal? I have a very fond memory where I wound up buying some of my favorite albums. So after I graduated high school, my mom wanted to take me out to State College, Pennsylvania, where we were going to visit some friends and go camping for a week or two. There's black vinyl on this guy. Totally relevant to my story. We went camping, saw some friends, and I wound up going to visit my friend Pat from Redstream in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania back then. And so I borrowed Mom's car. I had like maybe $150 cash saved up for my job. And I drove to Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, met up with Pat, went to his house and raided his distro. And I bought Dark Thrones Under a Funeral Moon. I bought Managarm's first album. And I bought Summonings minus Morgul. I can't remember what else I bought that day, but these are like Under a Funeral Moon. Holy shit, that's like a top 5 album for me. And I bought minus Morgul. I don't know if I think probably all I knew at that point. I just graduated high school. I was 17 years old. I may have only known at that point that this was members of Abigor, and maybe a friend of mine might have played me this album beforehand, but I must not have been very familiar with that album. So, I leave Pat's house, I put on Under a Funeral Moon, blows my fucking mind. I'm driving through the hills and kind of mountainous areas of Pennsylvania back to our campsite. This is pre-cell phone, by the way. And then I put on minus Morgul, and holy shit. What a brilliant fucking album this is. I fell in love with that album. Funny thing about it was, I wound up getting to the campsite with 0 gas in our tank, and I had no money in my fucking pocket to buy gas because I spent it all at Redstream. What a great child I was to my mother. So minus Morgul, you all should know this stuff. I kind of have a hard time associating this with black metal, honestly. There are some parts on here that remind me of something that Björk would have done. Like there's a song maybe lugbers that remind me of Björk's Human Behavior. It's got this kind of like slow, funky kind of bass kind of sound to it. I don't know. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, summoning is, I adore fucking summoning. This album in particular, I do find is maybe the weirdest of all the summonings from my perspective. What do you think? Just black vinyl, so not a lot to look at. This is a Napalm reissue from just a couple of years ago, maybe 2000. It says 13, but I bought this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Anyways, yeah. This random grabber is not very random. It's pulling out some very heavy hitters. Let's see if we can get something weird. Alright, this is pretty weird. Alright, not gonna lie. Not super familiar with this album. And not a band I listen to very often, but I wish I did. Nefast. Conceived in inhuman blood. Nefast? Now, I'm just gonna look it up. Where were they from? Brazil. And yeah, they are a South American, fucking nightmarish, brutal death metal band. This album came out in 2004. They only did 2 albums. I've got their other one too. I want to say my buddy Marty sent me this a couple of years ago, and I played it maybe twice or so. I don't remember it being much different from their debut, but I always remember these guys and like Rebellion. They took that Christian sound and just took things up as far as you could go in intensity and just fucking steamroller fucking Brazilian death metal. I love that I have now both of these albums in my collection because sometimes I just scratch an itch where I need something just fucking ferocious and absolutely devastating. And Nefast is a really, really killer band. But I couldn't tell you much more than that. Like, that's just the sound that I think of when I think of Nefast. Yeah, not a super duper favorite of mine. But they're good. All right, here we go. So, a controversial band, if ever there was one. Top 40 hits by them guys. Anal Cunt. Yeah. When I was my very first baby steps into metal, my buddies were so into AC. And it probably has a lot to do with the fact that they got signed to Earache at some point. These were the first trolls to ever troll metal, as far as I'm concerned. And man, back when I was 17, I was into being super offensive and anything that was poking fun at Christianity and just puppy old people and shit like that. I was into it. And I fell head over heels for this album in particular, if it's actually worth comparing any Anal Cunt albums to others. And this album was a really big deal to me. I listened to this probably 4 times a week for the first 6 months or so that I was getting into this kind of stuff. I was really, really into this album in particular. But I don't recommend going back and listening to this because it doesn't hold up whatsoever. I have 2 copies. One of them is my original copy from way back in the day. And my buddy a couple years ago gave me his copy of it because he, like, yeah, who fucking still listens to Anal Cunt? So I should probably give one of those away to somebody, or both. Maybe I should probably consider giving away both of them because they were pretty fucking horrendous. Yeah, we're not gonna get into that too much. All right, another classic. Amazing Funeral Doom from Finland, Unholy. I like that a lot of people seem to be picking up on these guys lately, because this is a band that should not be forgotten. They were very instrumental, I believe, in the earlier iterations of slow, deathly doom metal, a la Thurgathon, Skepticism, stuff like that. This is maybe, I go back and forth between what my favorite Unholy albums are, and I also kind of have a hard time remembering this one versus, oh, what's the other one? So Second Ring of Power is usually my favorite one. From the Shadows I also really love, but between this one and Rapture, I vacillate between which one I like more. And I've always kind of meant like I should sit down and listen to all of Unholy's discography and just like kind of have a better understanding for that. I wish I had the patience to do that or the time to do that, for that matter. Just like sit there and study a band's discography from beginning to end. Maybe that's something I could work into the channel in some way. I'd like to do that if I could. But so Grace Fallen was their last album, and it came out in '99 on Avant-Garde Records. If I remember correctly, this is the one where they kind of started to get a little more, I don't know, Cradle of Filthy, we'll say, with the kind of gothy keyboards and female vocals and kind of stuff like that. Not to say that it's bad whatsoever. I like it. It's probably not going to appeal to a lot of people as much as their other records. So if you're going to dig into Unholy, and you definitely should, Second Ring of Power is the one that I think of that most represents their sound. But From the Shadows, which is their first full length, is probably the one that most people I think are going to resonate with because of how more death metal it is than it is doom. But Rapture is also great. And this one's great. It's just a little more of the time than their previous ones were. What else we got here? I think I remember this song being on that Century Media Firestarter compilation. Some compilation. Back when this stuff was coming out, compilations were so important. You would get them in catalogs and magazines and stuff, and they were your gateway to what you would buy next. Whereas today you would just download stuff and let's do it on YouTube or whatever. Alright, this is a recent acquisition. This is fun. This is pulling out some killer stuff. I kind of actually would prefer that the random grab pull like more obscure albums that I wouldn't ordinarily be listening to or talking about, but I don't know, I feel like this maybe pays off better for you guys because I'm talking about albums that you're probably going to like more than you're probably going to like. Let's just say that. So, this is a band called Hazael. Focus. And it's called Thor. So, I've been seeing this kind of going around. A lot of people talking about how this is kind of a forgotten classic. Luckily, Dark Descent reissued this in 2014. And, gonna make sure you see the puffy shirt band photo there because that is an important illustration of what they sound like. They sound exactly like that. They were I believe they're from Netherlands? Poland, actually. And they put out, this is their first one. They also put out an album in '98. So originally released in '93, and it's death doom. It's just really, really well done death doom. With a little bit of kind of gothic elements here and there, but not to a point that would tank it whatsoever. It's great. Buddy of mine, one of my subscribers, sold this to me a couple of months ago for really cheap, and I really, really wound up liking it. Yeah, so I was stoked to pick that up. Thor by Hazael. I'm not sure if you could still pick this up or not from Dark Descent, but looks like it's on Discogs right now for about $12. So, yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to track down. It's worth it. It's really, really good. I feel like there's a lot of this kind of stuff that's like, it hits good at first, but it kind of fades away. But there's songs here. This is a really, really killer record. So, let's do another random grab. Going on 15 minutes. Okay, this is good. This should be familiar to most of you. I feel like this is a adequately appreciated band, and sadly I think the main person in this band passed away last year, if I'm not mistaken, but this is Lycus with Chasms. Yeah, Chasms. And I think this is all they did, and it's just an EP. It's kind of a long EP. Relapse put this out in 2000. No, it's a full-length album. Just a couple of long songs. I've never heard Tempest or the demo, but this is amazing. Kind of deathly Funeral Doom, but it really speaks to how good it is that Relapse thought enough to release it on their label. Beautiful artwork on here too. Like, I get kind of lost or bored with a lot of this kind of stuff that I kind of think of it as like the Southern Lord kind of stuff. But this one is really, really special, and you can just hear the emotion, the absolute dread just bleeding out of these songs. It's a really, really moving metal record. I've been thinking about picking this up on vinyl. It's really, really good. And I think I saw enough people talking about it throughout the years that I wound up picking it up in a used bin, and I was blown away. But that was only like 2 or 3 years ago that I picked it up, so stoked on that, and it's something that I plan on, and I have returned to it fairly regularly since I picked it up. Here's a weird one. This is, I wouldn't talk about this on my channel unless it came up in a random grab, so you're welcome. This is where I feel like these random grab videos truly pay off, because my channel is mostly about metal, and my collection is mostly metal. I listen to a lot of other stuff that isn't metal, but I don't usually buy physical copies of stuff that isn't metal unless I love it. And this is an artist that I do truly love. You might recognize Klaus Nomi. He's kind of a pop icon, 80s figure. He was also kind of a big figure in the New York, dance club scene. He was also kind of famously one of those people who passed away from AIDS in the 80s, sadly. But Klaus Nomi was a German immigrant who moved to the States in order to pursue his music career as a singer. And he had this very, very unique approach to singing that he could sing and sound exactly like the best female opera singer you've ever heard. He had a wonderful voice that was in a range that was a lot higher than you would think he would have. This doesn't sound like an opera record whatsoever. Weirdly enough, the thing he's most well known for is a cover of Lightning Strikes, which was originally, gosh, you know what? This is all covers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so this is his self-titled album. And I don't think I ever noticed this. I know lightning is striking again. I always skip that one. It's such an obvious cover. But I'm seeing this like, no, okay. Not all covers, all right. So he also was kind of famous for being a backup singer for David Bowie. So he kind of came out of that scene. He was a weirdo all on his own. But I really like some of his songs, and I'm super impressed by his vocal range. And I listen to Klaus Nomi every once in a while. He's great. There's a documentary about him because he was a really interesting character. Just, yeah. Also, talk about a fucking style icon there. What a stud. People said he was like the sweetest dude and he would bake you the greatest pie you've ever had in your life. How about that? All right, we're at 20 minutes, couple more grabs. I don't know. I'm gonna skip this one. Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. Like, what are we gonna gain from me talking about that? I've got mixed feelings about Iron Maiden anyways, so let's pull another one. I hope you agree. That's not like really worth talking about. All right, this is something. Embrional. Come on, buddy. There you are. The Devil Inside. Embrional are from Poland, and they play. I'm gonna not sure how to tell you exactly what I love about this band. They're not really reinventing the wheel at all. They're just really, really solid, and they write fucking great songs. In some ways, I've kind of always thought of them as maybe kind of like a slower Angel Corpse in a way. They write killer riffs. They're really, really fun, and I really, really love the way their drummer just like dices up the rhythms and doesn't do anything boring or overly technical. It should be telling to you that this came out on Old Temple, which is a Polish label, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that releases good quality, kind of meat and potatoes, but well done, well executed death metal that doesn't reinvent the wheel. So like, this is a perfect label for this band to be on. I'm not sure where. Actually, yeah, I am. My buddy Wayne told me about this band, and it's really, really fun. I think he put this on one of his year-end lists a couple of years ago, and I listen to this pretty regularly, honestly. They have a couple other albums. This came out in 2015, and they put out one in 2019 called Evil Dead, which is also really awesome. But this is the only one I have from them, but good shit. Check out Embrional. They're worth your time. It's kind of like a band that reminds me of, not of this new like revival era of death metal, but kind of like a death metal band that never really went away in the late 90s. But they haven't been active for very long as far as I know. Alright, this is gonna be a hard one. Doing some shreds there. I know this is a pretty weird Rotting Christ album, right? Like, this doesn't, I feel like this maybe, whereas like Rotting Christ is kind of trying to sound more American. Let me know what you think of this one. Okay, so this band is called Velvet Thorns, Where Demons Rise. And I'm sitting here wondering if I knew I owned this before I put this on. Okay, so they came out in '97. The band was from Poland. I can't remember where I would have come up with a copy of this. It came out on a label I've never heard of, Croon Records. Looks interesting. It's got a lot of thorns all over it. It might be good. I'm hoping this is really good. This is pretty clever. They've got the band logo kind of shrunk down, and it's the border to all their band photos. That's pretty smart. There's like no info on Discogs about where the other members, what other bands and members play in. So I obviously should give this a spin and reacquaint myself with this. I have a vague memory of owning this for a really long time. I may have had this for upwards of 20 years, and it's just kind of always been in a dead space in my collection. And I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna take an educated guess and say this is probably a forgettable album because I forgot about it. Let's be honest. But I'm kind of stoked that this came up because it's probably worth revisiting, and I'll probably fucking fall head over heels for this and listen to it over and over and over all week long. I know I say that in a lot of my videos, like, this isn't very good, but maybe I'll like it someday, but seriously, I do that. Like, I appreciate albums for how forgettable they are sometimes, and how they just kind of hide my collection until I pull them out one day and I'm just like, where have you been for so long? I don't know, I'm definitely putting a lot of hope in that one, but it might go that way, we'll see. I will let you know. How about that? Okay, one more random grab and we're done. How about this? Alright, another vinyl. I appreciate how many of these random grabs is, how many vinyl it's pulling out. Alright, this band is called Eternum. The Devouring Descent. I was absolutely head over heels nuts for this record a couple of years ago when it came out. 2015? 14 when this came out. So I have a very fond memory of this album. Me and Austin from Panopticon were getting to be really good friends because he had moved up to Minnesota, about 4 hours away from me, and around this time I was going up there once a month and just hanging out, kicking it, because I had 3-day weekends twice a month back then. And so I had been fucking around on some forums or something, and I saw somebody praising this album, and I wound up downloading it. And I saved it. I just said, hey, Austin, I'm gonna come up and we're gonna, I just threw it on my iPod back then, and we wound up putting it on, and it was the first time either of us had listened to it. And the opening of this album is so fucking alluring and just fascinating. It's wonderful. One of the most iconic black metal record starts that I've ever heard. It starts off with this acoustic kind of thing that just draws you in. It's got this kind of mysterious, windy kind of fog kind of thing going on. And so that's how you get into my heart right away. So I wound up buying it on CD and LP. This is a solo project. No, there's two guys in this. I believe one of the guys in this band is from, what do you call it? Yeah, Asgore from, I can't even think of the band he's in now. He's in a shit ton. Drowning the Light. Everybody knows Drowning the Light. Shitbag fucking band. I kind of regret showing this on my channel, so I'm going to give that with a caveat that Asgore is a racist piece of shit. But I didn't know that when I bought this, and yeah. It's a great album, but Drowning the Light sucks. I wound up, this is one of those records where I'm just like, I don't know, should I give it away? Should I sell it and give the money to a charity? Should I just fucking throw it away? I'm not ready for that. The thing where I fall with that kind of thing, and I find myself having to make these decisions over and over, is the money is gone, the harm is done, I've got it in my collection. I don't feel like listening to this makes me more susceptible to the ideas that one of the members has in his personal life. This album and this band, I don't think whatsoever has themes of white supremacy that I'm aware of. It's not like I know the lyrics, really. So I don't think this is outwardly egregious in that way. But I personally need to figure out what to do with albums like this on my own. This is a channel where I talk about the way that my beliefs conflict with the music that I love sometimes. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your records when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm here to talk about what I go through and the decisions that I make with my albums that I own, and those conflicts that I have with the moralities of the people in the bands. And I don't want to just sit here and act like that doesn't happen. So Eternum made an awesome album, but if you don't want to support Asgore for being a racist piece of shit, then figure it out yourself. I'm sure you can do that on your own. So let's do another random grab so we don't wind up on that shitty note. Another thing about if I throw away an album like that, I kind of just don't want to pretend that I didn't have that great moment of Austin and I first listening to that album and just going, this is so fucking good. We did that. We had a great time. And we ate a sandwich afterwards. Okay, one more. I might not have this on CD. I'm a little surprised that since I have so many LPs and CDs of my favorite non-metal bands that this hasn't come up yet. This is kind of a stinker in the discography of XTC. It's not one that I'm very familiar with, honestly. Kind of a beat-up copy. This is a band that you should be able to find in a used bin in any record store But I kind of feel like I would really recommend just trying out random albums from these guys. They were a post-punk band from the 70s who had a lot of commercial success in the 80s, and they're weird. They are super, super weird, and they're amazingly talented songwriters that don't get a lot of respect. There was a documentary about them a couple of years ago that was pretty cool. But so this album is called Mummer, and yeah, it's not one of those albums that I reach for when I want to listen to XTC, but I should reacquaint myself with them, and this album in particular, more regularly. Every one of their albums is kind of hit and miss. They'll have like 5 or 6 songs that are really, really great. And then they'll have the rest of it is just kind of like not good. But their good songs are some of my favorite music I've ever heard. So I make playlists of my favorite XTC songs pretty regularly. And that's kind of the way that I like to listen to XTC, because yeah, like I don't think there's any other band out there who is so inconsistent from album to album. Some of their albums are kind of shitty, or like some albums I still haven't spent a lot of time listening to, because I've spent so much time just listening to those favorites. But their best one by far is Skylarking, and that's because that album is the one where they worked with Todd Rundgren as a producer, and he helped them cut the fat and merge all those songs into one of the most perfect albums that has ever been released. Skylarking by this band is flawless. Yeah, this has got Love on a Farm Boy's Wages. I do love that song. Human Alchemy is also a good one. But then they'll have these kind of like long, drawn-out sort of guitar jam kind of things that are just like, nope, don't need it, sorry. Yeah, XTC, one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band of all time. There you go, random grabs. I hope you liked it, and we'll see you next time.